Wonderful. Let's call this meeting to order. It's an informational meeting only. We do not have a quorum. We do not have alternates to seat. No one is present to speak. We can't approve minutes because it's an informational only meeting. So let's get to old business. And we will start with the mold update at Station 13.
All right, some news to report. The demolition and remediation has been complete.
Wow.
Everything's gone. There's one last dumpster to go. Every piece of sheetrock has been torn out. Every stud has been wiped down twice. Shot with an antimicrobial. And there is no rot in any of the framing whatsoever. So
Good.
the framing is all solid and intact. So after a heavy rain went down, there was a lot of water in the channel that sits on top of the foundation
Yeah.
that the skin of the building is bolted to. So there was quite a bit. So we left that be. Carl Asimova came down on Alex's invitation. He took a look around. He said, you need to find or get done a topographical map of the site. Alex went into the records that we have put together for the addition. Lo and behold, topographical map. So,
You already own.
yeah. So Carl was in possession of that, and he asked Alex for a few more things. So he says he looked in the back, and there were some spots that were just dead leaves and no vegetation. He says that tells me there's ponding of water. But the water, if the water ponded high enough to go over the channel, it would have been running out in front.
Right.
So that it was. After a heavy rain, the water was all contained in the channel. So after this last rainstorm, I went down and I found where the dampness originates in the channel. One spot I found, which we knew where the heavy mold was in the day room, right by the window. Drip, drip, drip. So I got a ladder, climbed up as high as I could because there's no flooring up there. Couldn't see where it had come in. I didn't have presence of mind to go down during the heavy rain and look at it that day, but I went afterwards. And I found another spot in the kitchen. There was dampness. It wasn't the.
It's not coming up from the bottom. It looks like it's coming down.
It's
from the
coming
top.
down from the top.
All
So
right.
somewhere in the roof or the
Right.
skin on the outside of the building.
Actually, Ralph Toulis volunteered to come down and take a look at the concrete situation. And he says he got nothing to worry about with the concrete.
Oh,
There's no
well,
problem.
that's.
Yeah, because
relief.
it was poured correctly. You've got the styrofoam on the inside of
Right.
the foundation. The slab is up to the styrofoam so it can float.
Yep.
So the fact that the skin of the building is 40-some years old might be the problem.
Might be the problem. So we are going to do a little experiment with the fire truck and some hoses
Oh,
Try to find the leaks.
and try to make it leak inside the building.
yeah.
Because we found, well, of course, it was probably as a result of the demolition where the gas line goes into the kitchen for the kitchen stove. Seemed to be a lot of water there, but again, it was just a couple feet down from where I saw the water. And there's a slit in the back of the building and a couple other holes that we can patch up, but we've got to find out what's going on. So Carl's going to give us some recommendations for excavation. And
That's some good news, actually.
actually, it is, yeah. So
Yeah.
we don't have to tear out all the framing
Yeah.
should we decide to go ahead.
All right.
Great.
That is good news.
So
All right.
Contract
Yeah,
again.
I saw online, somebody said, what's happening to Station 13? Are they moving out? Are they putting in a restaurant? They thought you were demoing the place
yeah, no,
with all the dumpsters out there,
we're putting in a warehouse,
putting in a warehouse.
Just a smaller one.
just a smaller version.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we made progress. So, right now it's Carl.
I suppose I ought to drive down there and take a look one day.
Yeah, the station's locked back up.
Yeah.
The ET's back. The out of service ambulance is back, the phone trailer is back, so.
Probably breathe a little easier on the inside without all that mold.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a fan that was in the kitchen and in the day room, we just left that running just to circulate air because
Excellent.
doors aren't getting opened.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there was some dampness on the floor, but not sure where it came from. It wouldn't have, it would have shown in the ceiling.
yeah. How are you guys doing for the money on that? Is it?
We got sufficient money to do what we needed to do. We probably got 9 or 10 grand left. That included paying the plumber to demo all the plumbing. You know, we got to replace all the baseboard radiation. Staff mechanical came and took out the mini splits. We didn't have to remove the transfer switch for the generator, so that
Oh,
saved us
good. Yeah.
big bucks.
Okay. CIP discussion. We don't, does anything, but have anything to add about CIP? I think this is a quiet time of year for that.
I think the only update is the long discussed SUV for Willington Hill. The financing package finally went out for bid, and I believe the town finance office is waiting now for returns on the RFPs
Okay,
for the financing, and I'm not sure where Chief Snyder is on getting the dealer to hold the vehicle. I'm assuming he's still doing okay with the dealer, but we're actually not even in the fiscal year that it was approved for anymore.
yeah,
But it took a long time to get through the process, you know, with the town and getting the RFP done and all that. So the last email I saw was the RFP responses are due, I think, at the end of this week. And that's a finance package for that and a public works vehicle together.
oh, all right,
And so presumably they'll be back, then I think the board of selectmen will have to select a vendor to award it to.
Let's select the vendor that actually has one.
Well, no, select a vendor to award the financing
Okay,
package.
got it.
The vendor for the vehicle is chosen as long as they still keep the vehicle in stock.
Yes, please.
Yes. So, and the part of the reason I bring that up is, you know, it's probably a lesson for future CIPs to make sure that whatever didn't go right this year, that we plan a little better for, and we don't go an entire fiscal year without having the financing in place for the thing we're trying to purchase.
Is that CIP or, well, CIP is an advisory committee to the selectmen's, board of selectmen, so I think probably the board of selectmen ought to be staying on top of that. I don't know. Okay. So that covers CIP for last year. Next year is a whole nother story. Let's see how that works out. You guys gonna be needing any of the smaller vehicles, like pickup trucks or anything? Because your pickup truck got its bed put back together, but
That was after some damage.
Yeah.
There was some rust repairs.
yeah,
But it's somewhere down the line, I'm not sure
Yeah,
where
I
it
can't
is.
remember where it is in the-
all right.
It's not in the year that just started July 1. though.
Okay, no, no, we're not that close.
Keep that truck running. All right. There's, the next thing is budget alignment changes have been put into effect. I called Donna and told her to do it. I guess somebody needed a call from me, but nobody said they needed a specific call from me for a go-ahead. So I didn't know to call Donna, and finally I said, Donna, why hasn't this been done? She goes, because I don't have approval from you. I said, well, I approve it. She goes, that's good enough.
I don't believe that's necessary because this is an advisory committee. This committee has no authority. This has no authority to tell the finance department to do something.
Right.
I do appreciate that she's trying to make sure
There's somebody-
that someone instructed her to do it.
Yeah.
But
I think that's the important part,
Yes.
is that she didn't take that fully upon herself, so.
yes,
Whatever, it's done now, and so all those line items should be changed, and we should have financial reporting that's
More consistent.
yeah, the same on both sides. That'll make, as a Board of Finance member, that makes me very happy. Any issues starting the new year? We probably need to talk to your finance guys, Stuart and,
Jeremy.
Jeremy,
Yeah, no,
Jeremy, yeah.
we were all
So-
right because there,
You-
we had to put our surplus on hold because there was a need,
Right.
possibly a need for Wellington Hill.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's come to fruition, maybe.
I don't remember exactly how the numbers worked out. I know some money in Fund 18 was used, the leftover, and I think some money previous to July 1 that hadn't been expended on your side was
Right.
used to cover bills,
Right.
but then I think after July 1, it was supposed to
Flip back.
clear itself up.
Yeah,
That's
we-
my understanding.
As of our meeting last Tuesday, we hadn't been told that yet.
That's what I think is supposed to happen, yeah.
Let me,
So you
let me,
assume that was the plan, it was
Yeah.
supposed to flip back.
let me make a quick call sometime this week to Donna and make sure that we're all straightened out with that.
Yeah, because that money was earmarked for gear.
All right, I just want to make sure that the accounting is cool. The last big thing I have here is the tax abatement plan. I got the new draft from Tom. I read it real quick. I haven't really gone into it. The things I'm hearing is that there's the 10% of the calls accounting. Ethel's been working on that for the Hill.
Becky,
Yes,
for everyone who doesn't know her nickname.
yeah, I'm sorry, Ethel.
Yeah.
It's, yeah,
Yes.
I call her Becky and Ethel about 50-50 now, so it screws me up because every once in a while I can remember one name and not the other. Anyway, Becky has been working real hard at making sure that the number of calls gone to hits 10%. There are some issues, however, one of the issues I heard was the add another call accounting. So if you're at one call and another call comes in while you're at that call, Wellington Hill was giving credit for both as add another call. But there's a reason for that. It's not as I thought that was a little strange, but the reason for it is you have to hit 10%, and you can't, if you're not available, then that's a call that you couldn't go to that's counting against you. So should it count for you, or should it count 10% for you, or I don't know how that should work out, but it is not clear one way or the other. When I first heard about it, I thought that's awfully strange. You're getting credit for 2 calls when you're at 1. So, but it's not that straightforward. I think that we need to look into that some. Also, there's some accounting where calls are being added in after the fact for the accounting at TN. So there was at least one incident where 3 calls were added by TN the next day to make their accounting for their bookkeeping and their call numbers straightened out. So there's no chance at all of going to a call that happened a day ago.
It's entered in arrears.
It's entered in arrears.
Right.
And so that also counts against you. It's harder to make 10% if you can't go. I mean, you're not told about it. And then the number of there's also calls that aren't dispatched or aren't put out on
that is
IAR.
related to the other thing that
That's
you
related to the
said.
other thing, right?
And part of how that happens is it's a legitimate cause. It just has to, which for how to account for
Right,
it.
no,
The
everything,
legitimate causes that say either department goes out on maybe an officer call or is out on one call and then they get a call, particularly if it's during stormy weather or something. And we go from one to the next to the next. Sometimes a chief will call in later and say, yeah, we stopped at 2 other locations, we cut a tree here, we did this, so I need another call number and another call number. And so those get added into the system later, but because they didn't get paged out, the majority of the members would not have had the opportunity to attend that call. And so that creates a call that counts against the percentages, but they weren't able to attend. The good news is with all of these, the majority of the time, the people who are close to that bubble, well, are not close. People are not, for the most part, close to the bubble. They're either way over it, so these calls don't matter, or they're probably under it. So there are only a few people that are close to the bubble, in which case we may have to spend some time figuring out if, which way they should fall. But there are quite a few numbers that don't line up with, if you look at what was paged out versus what amount of total calls there are, they don't line up.
Hi, Stuart. Hi. How are you?
There's a guy who probably understands that better than anybody.
Yeah, I'd be curious to look that up because I think that number is pretty low of excluding a storm situation. But for routine stuff, and also in the ESO side of things, there's a category in there that says station for who's dispatched, 13, 49, or both. So if you pulled a report out of ESO, the example of like a 49 only typically is going to Ashford. There's parts of Ashford that Wellington Hill will go that Wellington one doesn't, and vice versa. But other than that,
Or a station coverage down at Eagleville's.
yep, and even that one's kind of iffy because we flip a coin like who's supposed to go, and sometimes one department can go or can't, and the other way around. So.
See, that's interesting information for me because I was under the understanding that both stations got dispatched to every single, almost every. But it almost isn't the same as everything, which also makes for an accounting error.
Yeah.
So I think the accounting.
But those are out of town calls that aren't counted in the first place.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Well, that's true too.
That's true as well.
That's true too. Wait, there's more.
But wait. All right, so accounting issues are something that I think we can work out. It shouldn't be too difficult. And
I
like you
think
said,
what was the harder part was being able to actually try to get it all figured out, what the numbers were. I don't think there are too many people that are right on the bubble.
all right,
It's just needing to figure out what the number is so you can figure out where the bubble is.
all right. As long as we don't have a lot of people sitting on that bubble, it should work out pretty well. Then all this other static shouldn't be too bad. But I think that we should have, you're still at TN?
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, oh, lucky you. Is there some way that if Becky Sinowski called you and asked you some questions, she could get her accounting? She's doing the accounting for number of calls and percentage of calls for the Hill. And she might have questions. Are you a good point of contact for
Yeah,
that?
I'm the guy that usually pulls the reports.
All right,
From that side anyway.
that would be,
Keep in mind, TN doesn't keep track of who goes to calls.
right,
Uh,
right.
But in
No, I know
terms
that.
of-
Number of calls, who,
Right.
where they're broken like that.
Mhm.
Now, what happens to your guys when they go to an out of town call? That doesn't count for or against them?
It doesn't, that's accounted for differently.
Okay,
Well, it'll count for like total number of calls, but if you're talking in reference to the tax abatement,
right, that's what I'm talking about.
the out-of-town calls don't count at all. I
All right.
believe the way it's written is in-town calls only.
All right,
Yes, I believe that's true.
which,
The one thing you can't follow explicitly is the actual incident number
yeah,
for two aspects. One is some of those are for going out of town,
right,
or a good chunk of them are. The other is occasionally a dispatcher has an oops, and
Yeah.
puts you on the wrong call. and then it'll show up that, you know, Wellington went to, East Granby for a call, which we obviously did.
Right,
But there is no undo button in the CAD in terms of legal
Yeah,
records and
yeah.
all that stuff.
I have the same issue at Coventry where there's some, I can't undo some
Yeah,
stuff.
there's no undo. It's all part of the legal record and stuff like that. So when I pull the monthly reports for, our department, I'll pull them all. I'll scan the town names and say, you know, is it just the towns around us where,
Right.
where we typically go? And if there's an oddball saying, you know, oh, you went to Lebanon, usually we didn't go to Lebanon, or if we
Right.
did, it was a significant event that everybody all knows about. So yes, there was an incident number assigned to that call in Lebanon, but nobody actually went to it.
Right,
And so I scan all those every month and weed out which ones. I also, for our reporting purposes within our department, you know, occasionally Wellington Hill will go out to an officer call. And if you see, you know, car 649 is the only unit that went to that call, I know it's something that they took care of on their own and Wellington one didn't go. So I'll back that out of our call count as well.
See, I don't think you're backing those out of your call counts. Because
the
Becky doesn't
reverse.
have the.
Yes, I think she does.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you know, we're fortunate that we're not doing hundreds or thousands of calls, you know, a month. So pretty much you can scroll down the list and figure out, gee, I don't think we went to that one, and, you know, or not, but,
Mhm.
you know, you talk about the opportunity to go to calls in town, some of them go out that, you know, are broadcast for whatever reason.
Yeah.
What do we do for call numbers a month? Are we right around 100 or?
Yeah, we're 105 run, get like that.
Wow, 100 was a
Last
pretty
month?
damn good guess then for nothing.
Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah.
varies, because in the end, it's
Yeah.
gonna come
No,
out
no, no.
somewhere, what, around 9 something for the year?
We're at 1150.
Yeah, 11:48.
Oh,
For our numbers anyway.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, but that's the mutual ambulance calls. to-
Yeah, that's a lot
To
of
Tallinn.
cranking out Tallinn and Stafford ambulance calls, probably adds lots of
And I
that.
see Union showing up a fair amount lately, but that's highway stuff mostly. That and
Union,
elderly people.
Well,
Union seems to come
And,
out.
don't have a report in front of me, but we did the year-end report for mutual aid. And I think Union was 63 calls for the year and Tallinn was 117
Hmm.
or something like that. It was almost
Yeah.
double going to Tallinn than it is going to Union.
Hmm.
So, and Stafford's in between that. Stafford's more than Union by quite a bit, but we do get some mutual aid back from them to,
Yes.
in theory, offset that number somewhere.
Do you know anything about the discussions between Alex and the town of Union?
No.
All right. That solves that problem. Have we gotten any further on filing pre-plans so that they're available when we show up?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So I found out that Sean Marquardt, one of our full timers, is very skilled in with Adobe. I don't know if he's using Photoshop or something like that.
Right.
But he's updated all the Sammy Wheeler maps, if you remember those that were made, what, in the 70s probably for the bulk of those?
Yeah.
That
Some of them were made in the 90s with 70s style.
Yeah. So he's updated all the maps with taking a Google aerial view and marking the apartments and things like that. I just got those last week. I found 2 little things that he fixed today. I just have to refresh my memory how to put them into the CAD so they show up on the crew force side of things. But if we have a call there, you hit one button and you know, brings up the PDF of that. And so they're good.
You know how to make me happy, don't you?
Well, they're trying to make a little progress every month.
Yeah.
One thing that came up last night, that was kind of like phase 1 of the apartment complexes, and I have maps for the campgrounds as well, which will be helpful. Last time we went to the campground on Village Hill, and it's site N9 on top of the hill.
Campgrounds are always
Well,
tough.
N9 wasn't on top of the hill, it was down the hill and around the corner, kind of thing. And fortunately, somebody was leading us in. So campgrounds are tough to get to. So what I considered, you know, round 1 is to get the maps updated, get those available. We noticed today that Nolan had put some maps into I Am Responding, floor plans for, I think, senior housing or something like that. So it sounds like there's some documents that are available. And my question tonight was, does Wellington Hill have a representative or two that would like to work with us to share what they got? And we got a big notebook all full of, as we mentioned before, from various projects over the years, that some of it's good, some of it's bad, some's in between.
Yeah, I think, so we'll have to talk to the chief, but I
Mhm.
think, there was a combination of effort. It was led by Nolan, who, you know, obviously is no longer relevant, in accessing that, but, I think he was working with Kieran and Jeremy. So maybe Kieran knows like where that repository
Yeah, I
information is
texted
the
Nolan today.
easiest. Yeah,
I think the next
yeah,
step
Nolan will certainly point you to.
is going into a little more details depending on the property. Example being last night, we had a trouble alarm from 25 Senior Way, the apartment building. And come to find out, it looks like it was a telephone line problem with the panel. So it's going beep, beep, beep in the lobby only because it's a trouble. And it also didn't transmit anywhere
Because it's a phone line
because
problem.
it's a phone line problem. So we're able to silence it. One of the residents said they tried to contact the access agency, of course, it's after hours, no luck there. We figured out who the alarm company was and they called the representative of the alarm company, who barely knew what an alarm was. You know, oh, Wellington Woods High School is what he came up with. And so it took like 10 minutes to explain, you know, Dick did a very good job with it, explaining the phone lines are
Yeah.
down, you know, but, you know, maybe a phone company problem, might be a dialer problem, who knows? And he asked, oh, where's the technician coming from? Boston.
Great.
So it's like, really, that's the best you guys can do for an alarm company, is somebody out of Boston?
Well, I think typically by code, they're allowed 4 hours.
Yeah.
So
And-
they'll cheat that out as
And
much
yours,
as
we
they
can tell the
can.
rest of the panel is working, we still expected it to activate the interior devices and stuff like that, so we weren't super worried, but it gives you an example of needing 24-hour contact numbers for both who's ever running the place, access agency, as well as the alarm companies and things like that, because sometimes you do need them in the middle of the night.
Right.
The elevator would be another one. The lady that called it in, she actually called the firehouse for whatever reason. And we're fortunately we were there. The elevator, according to her, is making some real grunting and groaning noises. And she's not entirely wrong. And so, you know, who's their alarm company, the elevator company contact in the middle of the night, kind of thing. So that's kind of the next step on the pre-plans, is
Yeah,
to have some of that contact information and or whatever you determine to be hazards that are notable.
Well, this is also an opportunity, having a new fire marshal as well. You know, there's an opportunity for Trevor and all these things to sort of coordinate, because he may come across some of that information also as he's doing inspections, and if we can kind of make those things work
Yep.
together. Or we can feed him information that he'll need.
Well, yeah, a
at the
little bit of
inspection.
both. And,
Right.
you know, Dick Palmer used to give us updated owners' contact info, especially where in the last year or two, all the buyouts of the apartment
Apartment
complexes by
complexes.
primarily one owner. You know, it's important to keep that stuff up to date. So we don't have to call
Those
off.
guys out of New York City or something that's buying up all that, like they
Yeah.
are in Ashford.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's like one company that's bought almost everything in town.
Yeah, I got a friend that lives in one of those apartments and said they jacked up the prices 300%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all
they're doing
it's all
it every single
opportunistic
one.
investing, yeah.
So that's the next step on the pre-plan aspect of things. The map should be published up shortly. But at least are available to us. We have this iPads in we have two for the two ambulances and the ET, the pickup, and Alex has one as well. It'll also run on people's phones, but by the time you start loading full PDFs on your phone, it's
Yes,
a little tough. I believe Wellington Hill has one iPad in service on that platform as well. I don't know if it's in this.
I don't know.
I think they were holding off on the service truck because they're hoping for the service truck to come in before they mounted it.
Yeah.
And I think it was last time it was on AT 249.
yeah, that's actually letter H of the agenda. so I'm glad you brought that up, is the IT integration to make sure that we have iPads that we can access the information from. This. They probably don't care. Does, TN need any of this information?
Well, it's just as available to, it sits on their platform.
Oh, okay,
And it's just as available to the dispatchers,
There
as
is-
it is for us.
right, but when they get information, it's information that you input, and
Yes.
the town inputs it, and
Right.
then,
So
Yeah,
whatever we
access.
see pertinent, from the Wellington side
Right.
of things is what's gonna go up there.
excellent,
There was a point in time where you could call up there and go, hey, can you tell me which building that's in or something like that? I think they've gotten out of the habit of providing that service, if you know what I mean. And, um, So I haven't sit to where we can directly access it would be better. But they can look at it as well.
excellent.
Water supplies is probably the other biggest challenge in town.
I think Nolan had put all of that in, I am responding.
Yeah, I mean, and then some of them have limitations.
Yeah.
Deer Park, you get the dry hydrant there, Wilson's Pond there, generally a pretty good spot. You can get to it. There's some in town that tend to dry up a little bit more in the winter, or you can't get.
Yeah,
to
the
them.
one at Woodhaven.
Yeah, Woodhaven's an if you wanna-
is probably okay right now with all the rain.
Yeah, we've been after them for 10 years now, trying to get them to muck that out. So we'll help you with the town side of things and trying to
Yeah,
get whatever permits you need and so on and so on, but to keep a reliable water supply out of there.
Right.
That's gonna get mucked out because it's a long ride. At least they have hydrants down on 195 now, but that's still a long ride to,
just a long ride,
Yeah.
hauling water. Yeah.
you got a whole complex going up, so. Those are some of the challenges that we need to hit on a pre-plan of.
There's a lot of town issues, playing in wetlands and all that, and mucking out those things too, isn't there?
Yeah, so it was told to me, by the person who digs our hydrants, if you go to Ashford or Union, there's no permits required to do maintenance. Come to Wellington? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, Wellington's got some issues. Well, we can get rid of that.
Can't imagine.
Can't-
They've never denied us a permit for a dry hydrant, but
Right,
they've made us work at it a few times.
yeah,
But some of the extraordinarily simple ones, they will not make the decision that night, no matter what, even though there's nothing else to discuss. And we're asked at least once of what type of plants would we be cutting out of the way to go around the pond?
Whatever's between the road and the pond. Well,
probably some kind of invasive that needs to be cut anyways.
the-
Anyways. So
So
thank you
we're
for that update.
making progress.
You're making huge progress, and I thank you for that, and we need to find somebody from the Hill to make sure that Stuart.
Yeah, well, hopefully he'll hear back from Nolan about
All right.
access to the stuff that's in I am responding, and that will, then he'll tell someone on our end how to get the access. to
All
it.
right. Yeah, but there, I think that the Hill also has some pre-plans that aren't accessible to anybody. I think they're in a file somewhere.
Yeah, and we do too.
Officers book.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
officers book. We need to get it out of the officers book and into a digital database that can be accessed from wherever. You need the information when you need it, not later.
The first page I pulled out of our book today, I had to look at it because it's not marked. It's the layout of the first DOT garage building, first one on the right there as you pull in. And it shows you where the office is, and the electrical room, stuff like that, but it's just sitting in the book. But if you're going in blind someday where the place is all full of smoke, it'd be nice to know that,
Yeah.
okay, it's the third door on your left is kind of where you're headed or something like that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was looking for, getting that on the line. The youth guidelines, junior guidelines, are we making any progress on that?
I don't know.
All right, I will, that's a chief thing, and when I get a chief here, I'll inquire with them. And we already covered the last point, so is there anything that we need to discuss going forward that you can see coming up real quick? being hit with silence, I will say, I'll make up
The-
stuff for the next.
The
meeting.
long-term CIP plans, are they gonna reside in each department alone, or the? two departments
I think
gonna do
that
it
that's
together?
probably something that should,
I mean, especially the longer term ones, you know, the 10, 20-year.
Right.
Out, that when it comes time to
I think,
evaluate the fleet at the very least. You know, are we gonna need more apparatus, less, different?
yeah, that's a question that's
That-
out of my wheelhouse.
That can't, or perhaps shouldn't be made solely within one department.
Correct. That's exactly where I was thinking we should be going, is that particularly long-term, we should, I mean, even if it's a shared document online or something that you can both look at and say, this is a problem, we need to add something here, maybe we should meet and add it. I don't think either department should be adding in like a new engine tank without talking to the other department. I think that would be an extremely bad idea.
Yeah.
And knowing when equipment needs to be replaced, when. So
Well, you know, look at some of the things that we've gotten FEMA grants from, and one of them was a all-new large diameter hose that we got back in 2009. And typically, the lifespan of hose, 20 years. So to replace all the hose and the somewhat unlikelihood of getting another grant for it, that, you know, that'd be a good chunk of money. I mean,
Yeah.
in round figures, we have 4,500 feet of LDH, and you have 22, 30.
I think there's on about 10,000 feet between the two
Yeah, and
departments.
it's roughly, last time I checked, $6, $7 a
I was
foot
gonna say
before,
7.
before inflation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, so
Well,
you're
just
probably
said it.
talking at $80,000 to $100,000.
For hose.
then that's just the large diameter stuff, let
Yeah,
alone the hand lines and
No,
stuff
no,
like that.
don't give me a headache now on top of my heartburn.
And so those are some of the things that have never really
Right.
been on CIP. We dodged the bullet for getting that grant, and we did a multi-town grant for that one. But.
Yeah, so what you'll see-
Those are the things that are coming.
Yeah, what you'll see happening is a length or two of hose fails every year. You lose a couple lengths, sometimes they can be repaired depending what they failed
Right.
for. And then when you start getting close to 20 years, all of a sudden like 5 or 8 lengths fail
Yeah.
in a year. And then
Then you know it's time.
Then you know the
it's-
lifespan is coming to an end.
So that's kind of, you know, the compressor for filling the air bottles,
Yeah,
that was in before that. So that's like 2007 maybe, or something like that. Again, then those can last 20 to 30, mainly depending on parts availability. And we've had to throw some parts at it so far. And it's not that we'll wear it out. It's, oh, sorry, those parts aren't available anymore.
Right.
Go buy a new compressor.
yeah.
And that was over $40,000 to buy out.
70 now.
Yeah, so I think that it's important to get a CIP, that's, I mean, one of the things that I have on the agenda every month. But I think that right now CIP plans go out 5 years for the town. And I don't think the departments have been going too far beyond that. So
Nothing,
even
nothing
if-
more than what's in our head.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
we sat down and we did discuss. it.
Right.
You were there.
oh, yeah. No,
So
I'm not saying, it's just that things change over time
Right.
and we want to make sure that we're all working off the same
Plan.
database, the same plan.
Well, there may
So
be guidance from CIP coming too, because I know there's
Right.
been a lot of discussion in CIP the last 2 years about the fact that the overall
wanna go-
CIP plan needs to be longer than 5
Right,
years.
right. Well, I think that when they went, when CIP started, that was a big step, just to get
Yeah.
CIP started, and then to go out 5 years was considered amazing for the time, so.
You need it in 2 separate pieces. You need the 5-year plan and all the battle and the fighting and the wrangling that goes through getting the 5-year plan done and barely in time. And then you need a separate track where you're talking about the 10-year, 20-year plan.
Right,
Otherwise, you'll never get any of it done.
right,
And the further out you go, the less,
the less exact it is,
the
more sticky.
less the dollar amounts matter.
Right.
It's more the concept behind,
Yes.
oh, we need this truck, or
Right.
we need this
Yeah.
hose, or whatever, and the price is what the price is whenever we get to it.
That's another thing is if you have like a list, we need this, like an Excel spreadsheet,
Mhm.
so that you can put in the kind of the dates and kind of, and then a column for the number, you could just change the numbers.
Yeah, it'd be
Numbers.
interesting to see, when it was purchased, how much it
Right.
cost back then.
And how much
Find that,
right.
and, the-
Actually, if you have a spreadsheet, you could have a line, how much it cost originally, how much we think it's gonna cost to replace.
Yeah.
And that way you can kind of, if we could start building the skeleton out past 5 years at least, so that everybody's knows what's going on, I think that would be a big help. All right. Any major concerns since the last meeting? Excellent. So you made me very happy about the mold, and you made me very happy about the pre-plans,
Don't forget, I got us online.
and you got us online. So everybody
I
was
unlocked the door,
valuable
too.
tonight, except for me. And we have no correspondence, and I'm good. Are you on welfare?
I'm good.
All right, so I just need an adjournment. There we go, we're adjourned.
Yes. At 7:21 PM.
Excellent.